Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show, heard daily on Bible School Radio 91.3 KDKR, Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC Commerce.
Portions of KDKR's daily programming do not necessarily reflect the views of the management or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
So when does it make sense to go down to one car? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to this special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Tony Joe's here with me, as he is every Friday, to take your Car Corner questions. Number to call is 1-877-913-5357. You can also go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. Send a question to the Ask Bob section, and I will get you taken care of. That's another way to get information. All at the website, prudentmoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. Well, Tony Joe, you don't look as disappointed as I thought you would look. I thought it would take 5 days of bed rest for you once the Cowboys got kicked out of the playoffs. But you look like you're doing pretty good.
Not really. I'm upset. It's not a good time, Bob. I had to get up Monday morning and man the Cowboy suicide hotline, talk some people down off the ledge, which I'm proud of.
I saw this video of this guy. He takes his big screen television and he goes, "I'm getting rid of this for good." And he goes out and slams it and busts it all up on the driveway, drives over it. He's in his Dallas Cowboy jersey. Mm-hmm. You just got to lower those expectations a bit. And add another year to the letters 30, and there it is.
You enjoy this, don't you?
No, well,
you enjoy.
I love the Cowboys. I have a love-hate
for a guy from Texas. You sure are not a true blue, hard and dyed-in-the-wool Cowboy fan.
No, I'm like every Cowboy fan that's alive. We're so used to being disappointed. Just another
you know what,
year.
Bob? Let me point out something to you. It's like a lot of people ask me, why do you stick with the Cowboys? I mean, why? And I'm like, because they don't do as good as you want them to. That doesn't mean that you abandon them. I mean, if your wife didn't do everything properly and didn't live up to expectation, you don't get rid of her for that. I mean, they're my team. That's just the way it is. Way it always will be. I didn't even live in this state when I was a Cowboy fan.
Well, you got here as soon as you could. That's the main thing. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. Is an interesting recall. I'll just put it to you that way. We always like to point out major recalls. Of course, I hadn't heard of this. This one hadn't run across the news that I follow. But I think this is a major one. I want to make sure that you give some time to it and talk a little bit about it so people will know.
Okay. Now, I just want to preface this with the thing that concerns me and always has concerned me when they started with all the new technology, entertainment systems in the cars, watch movie, that kind of thing. It's not a bad thing. Everything in life, I can find a balance in it. No matter what it is, there's always a delicate balance to everything. So here is one of the things that I want to point out to people. That is, especially older people with kids that are just learning how to drive. There has been a recall today. I don't know the exact models. Some of the newer Ford vehicles have been recalled because of problems with the video cameras going out. The backup camera, we're all familiar with that. But this in particular, I think, is a 360 camera. But it doesn't matter. The camera fails. And it's being recalled, and they're reprogramming it and all that and fixing it for free and blah, blah, blah. But 70-some-odd accidents have been attributed to these failing cameras, and that brings up something in my mind that I want to just say a word about. You have the ability to drive your vehicle no matter how fancy it is, no matter what technology it has on it. You need to remember how to drive like basic fundamentals. You look out the windshield to see if you're going to hit anything going forwards. You can look out the rear view mirror and look out the back glass to see if there's anything going on behind you. You have full capabilities of looking left and right out the windows. You also have outside rear view mirrors for your blind spots so that you can look on either side of the car and see if somebody is in what we call the blind spot, where you can't see them out the back window and you can't see them out the left side. Well, you actually have 360 radar right there, and it's not something that will ever fail on you. Of course, you crack a mirror and you don't fix it, that might impede your ability a little bit, but for the most part, you already have 360 radar. So if our younger people grow up with this technology and learn to depend on only the technology and not basic driving skills, then I fear that we are going to have a terrible, terrible problem in 20 years of ridiculous hopefully minor accidents for no reason at all. Just basic driving skills have to be reinforced. And what if, for instance, you get used to these cameras, or you get used to all the fancy stuff, and you hop in another car and something's not working? That means you can't drive anymore? No. One of the things that I've always pointed out, Bob, and then I'll get off this soapbox, but most people, a lot of folks do not know how to drive a stick shift car. Well, you know what? You should always know how to drive a stick shift car. What if there's an emergency? And what if somebody has to go to the hospital and the only car available is a 911 Porsche Carrera twin turbo with a stick shift?
That'll work.
I mean, what happens in that case? You can't, I'm realistically, what if it's a Jeep or a vehicle that has a stick shift, something? I mean, you should know how to drive a stick shift just because they are out there in vehicles. Even today, they're still out there. And in an emergency, you may have to take advantage of that car for some reason. So these are things that I think about when I'm driving around, thinking about, we need backup cameras. We used to look in the mirror. Now, on the same part, backup cameras are great. I got nothing against them. It gives you a better view of something closer that you can see in case there's a child back there or something you can't see in your mirrors. But overall, the technology should not be depended on. It should be used maybe as a additional safety apparatus that you can use, but you still need to know how to drive. And that's where I see a problem heading into with the new technology of the future.
1-877-913-5357. So I have an interesting question for you. We can debate the pros and the cons.
Okay.
Bottom line with the question is, you have a married couple retired. If they don't get out a whole lot, but when they do get out, they pretty much get out together.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there's two cars in the garage, and it comes to the question: does it make sense to get rid of one of the cars? I mean, think of the money that you would save if you just were practical and said, "We're going to drive one car."
Mm-hmm.
What are the pros and cons of that?
Well, it's going to depend on a lot of different factors, and it's going to be individual, case-by-case basic. But generally, I would say some of the things that at least I've experienced in my lifetime that I can speak to as fact. Number one, you say you got an older couple, and do they need two cars anymore? Well, there are occasions that I have run into where, sometimes, realistically, Bob, you sometimes just, it depends on how you get along, okay? I mean, if in most cases you can go somewhere together, but if somebody wants to go one place and the other wants to go another place and you're going to argue about it and you can't agree, then of course you're going to have to maintain two cars. But one of the bigger things that I have run into is as you get older, sometimes you've had a few more little fender benders than you used to have. And this one particular couple that I remember came to the point where he was almost uninsurable. And to get insurance on him, he was elderly, and she needed a car, and he needed a car, and he was paying an awful lot for insurance. So that's another one of the factors I'm talking about. If it's, the car is the car, but then you got to insure it and put gas in it and maintain it, so there's a lot that goes along with that. Is one of the people getting to the point where maybe they can't see as well and can't drive as well and maybe shouldn't be driving? That's when you get rid of one car and you both go together. The better driver always drives. So that's another factor that you have to look into. A third factor, are we...
Go ahead.
Okay, a third factor. A lot of times, you look at the two cars you've got, and one of the issues that people don't often realize is you got these two cars. Most of the time, you go somewhere together. Once in a while, he needs or she needs her own car to go, say, to the hairdresser or something. And it's got relatively short time on it. It gets started up every couple of weeks. Somebody needs to do an errand. That is not good for a car, Bob. When a car sits and doesn't get used a lot, it develops its inherent problems of its own. And that can be a factor depending on what kind of a car it is and how often it's used. So again, we have, a question about should we get rid of the car or not? Well, it's going to depend on a lot of things. And then I'm sure you have your own viewpoints on that, being a financial planner, about whether it's economically feasible to keep it or not. I'm talking about some of the practical reasons.
Yeah, I think that, and we're about up against a break. I can talk a little bit more about this in a second. But I think that there's no denying that you're saving, that you're going to save money.
Right.
I mean, it's black and white. It's the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's the math. Hold that thought. 1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. We're up against a break. Stick around, and I'll be right back. Hi, this is Bob Brooks, host of the Prudent Money Radio Show. Well, over the past 3 years, we have seen it all, from COVID to inflation to a bear market in stocks and bonds. Well, what happens in 2023? Well, on Saturday, February the 4th at 10 a.m., we are going to address 2023 and your money and talk about the following. Inflation, will it go higher or go away for good? A look at real estate in 2023. Are we heading for a recession? Will the stock and bond markets turn around? What is the best place to keep cash and emergency money? What could be the best kept secret of the next rebound? What steps do you take in 2023? Tough questions, real answers. Let's have a discussion. Well, on Saturday, February the 4th at 10 a.m., join me in a live Zoom presentation where we will discuss what you need to know to be safe and profitable in 2023. For more information and to sign up, go to prudentmoney.com.
Hi, I'm Jill Taylor, inviting you to join me each Saturday morning at 11 o'clock for Choose Life Radio. You'll hear people from across America sharing their stories of faith, forgiveness, redemption, and restoration. Choose Life Radio will encourage you to fully appreciate the gift of life. You may also find help for you or a friend in need. So please join me Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock right here on Bible School Radio 91.3.
What does it mean to speak the truth in love? Well, Monday on Focal Point, Pastor Mike Fabarez is encouraging us to care enough about others to confront them, but to also take extra measures to couch our words in grace and compassion. We're learning to develop our gentle confrontation skills. Monday on Focal Point.
.8:30 a.m. on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. 1-877-913-5357. I want to make sure that you heard in that spot there during our break that the 2023 and Your Money webinar, we switched it from next Wednesday and rescheduled it to Saturday, February the 4th, making it a little bit easier for people to attend it in real time. So that's at 10 o'clock. You can go to prudentmoney.com and sign up for it. And we are going to be hitting the major stories of 2022 and looking at them from the standpoint of how much risk does that build in your life as for retirement, stewardship in general, and what some of the steps you're going to take. You know, it's just there's a lot of interesting dynamics that are going on right now, from inflation. Are we heading into a recession? Here's one of the things I'm looking forward to talking about, and I found some information that I'm surprised is not being talked about in the media, but just the things that don't make sense. I've been doing this for 30 years, Tony Joe, and there's been many times where things don't make sense. It's off the charts today. Mm-hmm. That I could tell you, I could go through it and you would just go, well, that makes no sense. So the fact that is happening, we need to be paying attention. So that webinar, you can sign up for it at prudentmoney.com, and it is Saturday, February the 4th. Now, what I was saying before the break, I want to use an example.
Okay.
Just like people who want to downsize, and they're trying to debate whether they should sell their home and this, that, and the other. And I always say, if there's still a mortgage left, of course, that makes a big difference. But if there's a mortgage left, how much are you truly saving each month by downsizing? I would suggest that probably $500 savings a month doesn't make it worthwhile to downsize.
Probably not.
Maybe even $1,000 doesn't make. Couple thousand, 3,000. Well, that would be kind of be impossible. But anyway, there's a number that makes sense. I think the same thing. I wouldn't just sell off one of the cars for total cost savings unless it was a worthwhile number, and only you can be the judge of that. And other than that, I think some the points that you make, Tony Joe, it's a case by case basis on whether it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer generally. So yeah, it's more of a case by case basis. Every individual, I don't mean a couple's decision is going to be based on a lot of different factors, and of course you're used to that, Bob, because you do that every day.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the questions that have come in and questions we had about the last couple of programs we've done, talking about putting a lot of miles on a car and driving the wheels off. So the question comes down to, I'm going to drive this car using the phrase drive the wheels off and until I can't drive it anymore before I get a new car. I'm going to stretch it as far as possible. How far can you push it to the point that a car payment would actually save you money?
Well, in that case, I would say that if the average car payment is X, whatever it is,
right?
And I know it's a lot now. I'm afraid to think.
Yeah,
I think
it's really
upwards of $500 or $600.
Way more than that.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess no. You're probably right.
You know, you're going to make a car payment every single month without fail, and along with that comes the insurance, the upkeep, the fuel. You know, you have some fixed expenses with a car payment, and with a car that's paid for, you have to consider that you don't need to have collision coverage, which reduces your insurance liability premiums quite a bit. But that's something for each person to decide. So that's just one thing that might save you money. If you refinance a car and you make a car payment to save money, you have to consider those things. Now, when does it make sense? Well, when your car starts breaking so much that it's costing you $400 or $500 a month to maintain it, and your mechanic is going to be the key here. It should never get to that point. You should be able to consult with the people that take care of your car and get an honest evaluation when your car is in for work. You should be able to have them kind of look it over and see if you have some impending big expenses in the future that you could be forewarned about. That's part of taking care of somebody. That's part of helping them take care of their car. And you want to know things like, the air conditioner's not working, and this car has 200,000 miles on it. Well, that makes sense, right? Air conditioners break eventually.
Right.
Now, it's going to cost $2,000 to fix it. Do I want to invest $2,000 into this car with 200,000 miles? Well, I don't know. I would have to look at the car. If you're asking me that question, I would say I don't know. What else is going on with this car? Do we have any impending huge expenses? Like, is the transmission on its last leg? Things like that.
Well, I think you also have to look at it from the standpoint of a car is probably not going to cost you every month consecutively, but you got to look at it on a 12 month
exactly. You
basis,
have to average, right,
and say, okay, did I spend $6,000 on this car? This is the probability's high that I'm going. I could say that's all you can go on is probabilities.
Right.
It's a guessing, speculative answer, but it's an important one.
Good point. Good point. You want to cost average that thing over a year's time and see what it's been costing you per month to drive that particular car. And then, like I was going back to explaining, sometimes your mechanic can help you make a prudent decision for the future, like, do I want to invest this money in this car? Do you think it's time for it to go down the road? Well, I don't know. Let me look it over. Let me drive it. Let me see what other things I can see coming. Nobody can predict the future, but a mechanic has the ability to sense things that are starting to go bad better than the average individual. That's his job. So I would have to say, Bob, it's going to depend on the car, make, model, year, how many miles are on it, and what other things are possibly going to go wrong before you decide whether this is going to be a reasonable investment. And then, can I keep my car? If I fix the air conditioner, will it last me a couple more years?
You could get another 100,000 miles out of it in general.
Right.
But, I think it also, and you always talk about this, if a person comes to you and says, hey, can you look my car over? I've changed the oil every 3,000 miles. I've never missed a service. It's a way different possibility of an answer to fix the air conditioner than the guy who comes in and says, hey, I've got 200,000 miles on this car and I've changed the oil four times.
Once in a while. I've done it before.
Yeah, so it's a way different answer, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
So here's a question for you. And I know that everybody wants a textbook answer because they want the easy, okay, I'll make that decision. Not like this is no textbook answer involved here. But let's give you a scenario. Your car is valued at $5,000. Is there a percent of value that you don't want to cross in a repair cost? I mean, I was just thinking about this for just a second because you nailed it a second ago talking about the price of a new car, a car. Let's just say a car. Interest rates are not where they used to be. They're 5-6%, 7% to put down on a car, which adds up.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's a way bigger payment. So there's that pressure of, oh, maybe I should just drop the $2,500 into this $5,000 car. I mean, there's got to come a point or a percentage, or maybe a percentage is not the best way to look at it. But talk a little bit about that.
Well, I would have to say, Bob, that the people in the business that constantly look at numbers like this are the insurance companies. And
good point.
In most cases, 70% of the value of the car or more totals the car. Now, do I agree with that? Well, again, you have to consider some things with, okay, so $5,000 car, what would that be? $3,500 or more?
You could easily, couldn't you?
You could.
I mean, a transmission goes out or...
a transmission alone can be $3,500 nowadays on some vehicles. So, yeah, I mean, you got to decide, I guess I would put it like this. Unlike a crash vehicle that the insurance company is going to pay for, exceeding 70% of the value totals it, if that number's still good. I think it is. But when it's 70% of the value of a $5,000 car, that would mean $3,500. That could mean a new transmission. Do you put a new transmission in this? And, well, if everything else is working and everything else seems good and solid and it's got a good track record, it's a good make model, and there's not a lot of problems inherently with this vehicle because Nissan Altimas get CVT transmissions put in them all the time for $3,500.
Yeah,
I would keep it.
But, think of it this way, too, from what you said. Let me take a look at the car. And you say,
of course,
and you say, your water pump looks like it could go out. And you come up with 3 or 4 things that could add up to $3,500.
Exactly.
That's a tough call.
That's why you need some help.
But that's a tough call, right?
Yeah, but, well...
Or not.
To me, it wouldn't be. If I saw that the transmission is in need of replacement and it was $3,500.
Well, no, not the. But I'm talking about. Yeah, there's 3 or 4 things that could add up to $3,500.
I see. Other
you know what
things.
I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean,
tough call.
Yeah, it is a tough call. Does it have 200,000 miles or does it have 279? I mean, now we're
Right,
closing
sure.
in on 300,000. So, but I will say this, and I say this every time we talk about this. I put more money into my car when I fill it up than it's worth. So you can't go on these rules.
Okay, yeah. Well played, Mr. Tony Joe. This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.